Hello and all, through Dr. Stone, Chapter 22, Doctor versus Doctor. And this chapter answered a question that's, quite frankly, I've never actually thought about before, but which could have some very serious implications moving forward, and which has been present since the very first chapter. Basically, why did Senku and Taiju wake up, which has been nitric acid being sprinkled on them, while everyone else and the birds they tested on require the revival fluid? What was the difference between them? And as Dr. X explains here, the difference is the fact that they stayed conscious, they stayed awake. They didn't lose themselves to the madness and isolation of 3,000 years of emptiness. I mean, seriously, that literally sounds like hell. Senku even wonders at one point where the energy came from for him to keep thinking all the time without ingesting any food. Now, this is rather terrifying news because it means that everyone in Dr. X's camp, everyone that's working for him, is a person who was able to maintain sanity for all that time, a person with the mental strength not to go insane, not to fade away to nothingness. I mean, they are way stronger, smarter, more determined than the average man, and makes each and every one of them a huge threat to Senku and his team. Though, you almost have to wonder if maybe this was the point of the petrification device. I theorized in the past that maybe the petrification beam was designed as a means of saving the planet, of freezing all of humanity so the Earth has a chance to regrow, replenish its resources and whatnot. And it could be that it was designed in certain ways that only those who were able to keep moving forward, were able to stay focused for all that time, while petrified, were worthy of being revived, worthy of inheriting the new Earth that's been created. I don't know, but that could definitely be interesting. Also saw an interesting comment online of people wondering, okay, well, why didn't Dr. X think to include alcohol in to make a better melting fluid that would revive the people? And that's a fairly good question. I honestly didn't think about that, but then as I reread the chapter, I realized something. Dr. X has a huge ego. Like, a ridiculously huge ego. And what I really think is happening here is he just assumed that only the worthy, only the truly exceptional were allowed to be reborn in this new world, like I speculated before, might have been the original purpose for it. And so when others didn't revive properly, he realized, oh, they're just not worthy. Their minds broke down because of isolation, and eventually they just went insane and died. So these are just regular statues, they aren't people anymore. I could even see him smashing any statue that didn't wake up when he poured nitric acid on it, which would be unfortunate. Be very, very unfortunate. So yeah, I think he was just too proud of his own ego to revive those that he would have deemed to be less worthy than himself, which, oh, that'd be a fun twist. I'm sure now, though, that he knows that there is a way. I mean, Taiju even straight and then, we have miracle revival fluid, and we know the recipe. Jesus Christ. That was not something you should have told him, Taiju. But now he knows there is a secret recipe to it. I could certainly see him figuring out on his own how to make it. Figuring out the formula through trial and error. I mean, he certainly has all the resources and enough manpower to get done way faster than Senku did. I mean, it took him, like a full year of trial and error with Taiju to finally make it work. Anyway, so back to the beginning of the chapter, we open up with Kohaku and Chrome wondering what that giant old tower of science is. And I gotta love Kohaku here. When she calls Jen the world's most trustworthy liar, Chrome's like, that sentence makes no sense. You're contradicting yourself there, but no, I think it makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense. He is an absolute liar who's able to manipulate and betray anyone, but he's also fiercely loyal to his friends, to those he decided to fight with. I mean, don't forget, after he decided to join Senku's team, he stayed with him even after he was beaten half to death. He was still all on board Senku's Kingdom of Science, and has been ever since. And then Chrome gets the radio call up Senku, and I read that page, and I had to stop for a while before I could finish the chapter, and I just kept thinking to myself, oh my god, Chrome, how stupid can you be? Clearly they're intercepting your radio signals. You're gonna get your whole team killed. And then I came back in and Senku's like, no, don't talk anymore, not another word. Like, oh, okay, so Senku figured it out, thank god. So they just have to rely on some very, very simple back and forth messages. And even with just that very little information, they're able to figure out, oh, yeah, Jen probably infiltrated the group, and he's currently scouting them out so he can find a way to betray them and save all our butts. Oh, they know Jen so well. I do like that one of them thought, well, maybe he betrayed us. Maybe they have better Coke than we have. Coca-Cola, just to make that clear. So maybe he decided to join them. No, they're fully convinced that Jen is on their side no matter what. And then Senku hangs up. Oh, I love that. Senku's basically worried they might be so advanced they could pinpoint the source of the signal and find them, which they kind of do later on, so okay, you were right to be worried about that. And then Senku gets very, very terrifying as he says he's so excited for a battle against true science users. I mean, yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting fight because, I mean, like Yukio says, they've always had the upper hand. They've always been the more advanced with science. When it came to beating Magma, they had fire-making lenses. When it came to beating Tsukasa, they had dynamite! And they could revive his sister. When it came to being the old man on Treasure Island, they had freaking drones and radio earrings. But here they're up against someone who is way more advanced than they are right now, which is utterly, utterly terrifying. And then the phone rings again. Of course, Magma answers it. And what follows is one of the most terrifying page turns of the entire series, as Dr. X says, "Greetings! I take it this is your preferred frequency for communication." I don't know why I'm making him sound so disturbingly, flamboyantly evil, but I like it. I like it. And then he asks to speak with their leader instead of the troglodytes, which no good person has ever used the word troglodytes in a sentence. I mean, seriously. But anyway, he has to speak to the leader, and then Senku's like, alright, well, I guess I gotta talk to him. And then he says, "Put on Dr. Taiju for me." And then everyone's brains just completely break. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I will give it to him. Taiju, his acting skills were fairly impressive here. I mean, it certainly helps that Dr. Ecstasy has poor Japanese language skills, so he wouldn't really be able to understand the nuances of what Dr. Taiju is saying, so he wouldn't really recognize, oh, this guy's a moron. But Taiju is fairly confident in everything he says, except for one part, and I'm very impressed with him. And his girlfriend for making him a science outfit in the span of 10 seconds. I mean, they question if it's really necessary given this is a phone call, but you know, the outfit makes the man, and oh, I just love these two together. I really, really do. And then Dr. Taiju gets on the phone and gives a lesson on morality. Shooting people with machine guns isn't nice! Oh, I freaking love Dr. Taiju. I really, really do. I mean, Dr. X's explanation is a little iffy here, but I like basically saying Stanley's plan, he's putting the blame on Stanley, not himself, was to show them the overwhelming superiority of their machinery, their firepower, to force them to surrender. Which, okay, but were you still going for the kill? It definitely seems like you were going for the kill there. It doesn't seem like you were, aiming around them or anything. Stanley hit the mobile science lab they all escaped into, so it definitely seems like he was going for a few kills there, and then he was just going to try to convince the survivors to join up with him. I mean, at some point down the road, Stanley says, "I wasn't actually aiming for you, I intentionally missed," or something like that. I will believe him, and I'll be like, alright, so Stanley can still be one of the good guys here moving forward. As of right now, I'm a little iffy on that. It was a very fast scene, so it's really hard to say what exactly his plan was at the time. We'll just have to see about that moving forward. And then Dr. X announces the most terrifying thing of all. They have a hybrid Bosch plant. And Dr. Taiju just kind of gets very confused for saying, "That's awesome, Dr. X!" Which, yeah, okay, I can actually see Senku having said that, being, super excited they have that created. I mean, I have a freaking master's degree, and sad to say, I had a very similar reaction to Dr. Taiju here. I have never heard of a hybrid Bosch plant in my life. But apparently it's a very big deal, as they can produce an unlimited amount of bullets with it, so that's bad. I also really have to give my thanks to the Dr. Stone community on Reddit. Someone posted, "The hybrid Bosch process is the most important chemical industrial process in the modern world. Not because of what Senku said, because it's used to produce fertilizer and make agriculture way more efficient. It's estimated about half the global population gets their food because of this process. So it is a really, really important thing that is basically the only reason we're able to survive as a species right now. Very interesting. And it allows them to make a whole lot of bullets, so very, very bad for them." I'm also very curious in what Dr. X says here. We are a collective of professional adults. It's nothing like you ragtag band of merry youths playing with science. So I definitely thought Dr. X and Stanley came off as a little older than Senku and his core team. I mean, they've yet to wake up a really old person or even someone like his 30s or 40s as far as I can remember. Yeah, seriously, I'm trying to think of anyone they've actually woken up who's that old. No one, really. But that does make some amount of sense why his team is older than Senku, because, you know, they have a more developed brain, so they're able to better withstand the process of petrification for 3,000 years. This also means, though, that he is definitely looking down at Senku and the rest of them as just a bunch of little kids, and the only thing they really have is manpower on their side. And this gets Senku even more excited, because now he realizes that if they defeat Dr. X, they have unlimited access to nitric acid and cornfield, which basically means they can revive as many people as they want. Essentially, bring back the entire planet, more or less. So, that'd be good for them. If that's the case, though, Senku should definitely start giving some English lessons to the rest of his science team. I mean, Jen, Tsukasa, and him are all fairly decent English speakers. I think Ukyo is as well. Maybe Ryu, but the rest of them, not so much. Actually, no. I just remember the members of Ishigami Village are actually bilingual. They kind of know both English and Japanese because their ancestors spoke both languages. I have a whole lot of questions on how they were raised like that. Very, very confused by that. I'd like some more explanation at some point, but that would mean that they would also probably be pretty good at communicating with them, so curious to see what happens with that. Anyway, then Stanley shows up in another plane, which looks much bigger and scarier than the one he had before. And he got a little yo, he's like, "They had another plane?" And the one girl's like, "Why do you think they only had one? Why would you only build one plane?" And I saw a few people in the comment section saying that before, like, well, why do you assume they only have one? They have a whole hangar full of them, which would certainly explain why Stanley seems so willing to abandon the plane that easily. Thankfully, though, Stanley's not going to repeat the mistakes of the past, let his plane get shot down like it did the first time. So he's going to be doing higher air maneuvers, but that's still outside their reach. They can't really attack him. And he could still, use firepower to shoot at them from very high up. So the only option is to get their own plane up and running, and Kaseki is so friggin' pumped about this. Or at least she is, until Senku announces that they're going to turn for the Perseus into an aircraft carrier, and then he gets way more pumped, and so does Ryu. I don't think I've ever actually seen Ryu that happy before. And the rest of them just kind of all start panicking and looking utterly, utterly terrified. Not gonna lie, I do not know how they're gonna turn this into an aircraft carrier. I know that aircraft carriers don't actually have enough runway for planes to take off and land on their own. They use some sort of bungee system to shoot them forward and restrain them as they're coming back in. Something like that that's basically as far as my understanding of aircraft carriers to go. So I'm not really sure how they're gonna modify the Perseus into that somehow, some way. I mean, I feel like that's going to be a major renovation that would take them, at the very least, a couple of hours. I mean, they have a lot of manpower right now, and Senku would definitely know exactly how to do it, but I'm not sure they really have the time with, Stanley flying overhead about to drop bombs or shoot at them or do something crazy. So yeah, next chapter is apparently them going to be having a dogfight in the air, plane versus plane. Only question is, who the freak is gonna pilot it? My best guess is that Ryu has a pilot's license. I mean, he's the man that wants everything in the world. He knows how to sail sailboats, old-timey ships, yachts, and everything in betweens. So, and he actually knew how to fly a hot air balloon, I think. Yeah, he was pretty good on the hot air balloon. So it would make sense if he also has a pilot license. Certainly wouldn't have been all that difficult for him to get a pilot's license at some point in his life. Curious about that. I also see Kohaku kind of getting on board. Kohaku or Homura, or maybe both. The only reason I'm saying those two is because they have incredibly good balance and maneuverability. So they would be the best people to have if you're somehow fighting plane to plane somehow, some way. And they also don't have machine guns, which is going to put them at a big disadvantage. Kirasami could definitely play a role here as well. She did an amazing job throwing the powder to take out the first plane. I absolutely love that. It was a great chance to show off what she could do. That was really cool. I liked it. Would love to see more of her doing what she can. I seriously want to see more Kirasami, honestly. I mean, yeah, there's still the whole Hyoga, Mose, Homura. I mean, they all have their own story to tell, turning from villains to heroes, but Kirasami I'm just very curious about. She seems like a very interesting person. I just want to know more about her, honestly. Honestly, even this series goes on for another 30 years, I think I still wouldn't have enough of all these characters. I just love them so much. Alright, so let me think about all this down below. Was Stanley going in for the kill? Who's going to win the dogfights? And do you think you'd be one of the chosen ones? One of the people that could have withstood 3,000 years of isolation without going absolutely freaking insane? And just fading away into oblivion, essentially. I don't know. I really don't know if I could handle it. I mean, I feel like I'm stubborn enough where I'd be like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And crazy enough where I'd eventually just start, writing books in my head. Chapter 37. It was a warm October day when the dwarves appeared to battle the elves and the acid volcano. On the other hand, I'm also kind of a quitter, so who knows. Be sure to like, subscribe to the next video, and until then...
Peace!